Hello, I'm here at our own Cellar studios with Emmy-nominated guitarist and composer Grant Geissman, who recently released his 16th solo album. Hi Grant, and thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me here, Lauri.
Can you tell us a little bit about your latest project?
I can. It's everything on it is bluesy in some way. I wrote all the tunes. There's 12 tunes on there, and we have some amazing guests. Randy Brecker plays on a tune. Tom Scott, sax player Tom Scott, plays on a couple tunes. There's some guest guitar players. Robin Ford is on a track. John Jorgensen's on a track, and there's one tune with me, Josh Smith, and Joe Bonamassa, all kind of dueling it out.
That's amazing. That sounds really great.
It is fun.
And people can purchase a copy right through Cellar magazine store?
Please
or, whoever on your website?
Literally wherever music is sold. Any streaming service, you know, the company that sounds like a jungle, you know, you can anywhere like that.
But we also have our marketplace to make it really easy.
Yes,
that's great.
Do that.
And so you also have a CD release concert coming up here in LA? We
do. Very excited about it. It'll kind of feature the BLOOZ album. By the way, the album BLOOZ is spelled B-L-O-O-Z.
Uh-huh.
Not because I didn't know how to spell blues, but because it's kind of my take on the blues. Like everything's bluesy in some way, but not necessarily always straight up, you know, traditional blues. So.
That's cool.
Anyway, the CD concert, yes. It's September 24th at the beautiful El Portal Theater in North Hollywood at 8 o'clock. And saxophonist Tom Scott is our special guest as well, since he played a couple tunes on the CD.
Nice.
So it'll be really fun.
Yeah, great theater down in the NoHo Arts District.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, I should also mention your extensive work scoring music for films and television. You co-wrote the theme song for music, 12 seasons of 2.5 Men, as well as 6 seasons of Mike and Molly.
Right.
Wow, amazing.
I co-wrote the theme for 2.5 Men, you know, men, manly men, that one. And, you know, we did all 12 seasons of it, and there was all kinds of fun music. You know, Charlie Sheen played a jingle writer on the show, so he'd be sitting there writing some silly song, and we'd have to kind of do that stuff. And the coolest thing we did on 2.5 Men, when Ashton Kutcher finally took over for the last 4 seasons, we did a nearly 3.5-minute sort of Broadway full production number, this tune called You're a Douche. So only on 2.5 Men you'd see a tune called that. Oh my goodness.
Wow. Also, if there are any Chuck Mangione fans out there, that's Grant Geissman's guitar solo on the 1978 pop crossover hit Feels So Good.
That was me. You remember this song?
How did that come about, and how? Yeah.
So, you know, at the end of 1976, I got a phone call, and at the other end of the phone, this guy goes, "Hi, I'm Chuck Mangione," and I'm like, "Hi." Anyway, he hired me sight unseen on a recommendation to do one gig at the Santa Monica Civic in, you know, in Santa Monica, right there. And so we did that gig, and he liked it, and he said, "Would you like to, you know, finish out this little tour, like 4 or 5 more dates in the Pacific Northwest?" And I'm like, "Sure." And one thing led to another, and he asked me to join his band full time. So.
So you did get to play live with him as well.
Oh, for years, yeah,
That's
many years.
Cool.
We did all the TV shows of the day. Once Feels So Good was a hit, he actually sold out the Hollywood Bowl, and he recorded a live album. We did it with him called An Evening of Magic, live at the Hollywood Bowl with Chuck Mangione.
Oh, so that's nice.
People still talk about that album, like one of the. They think a lot of people think that's one of the best live albums of all time. So.
Oh, cool.
Happy to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a killer solo.
Thank you.
And besides working with Chuck, you also recorded for Quincy Jones.
I did, yeah. I did one session for Quincy, and that was interesting because he doesn't say too much. You know, I played this kind of bluesy track. I think it was Let the Good Times Roll. But he doesn't say too much. He just lets you do your thing. And then he's like, okay, you know, and then you leave and you go, I don't know if I'm on the album. I don't know if he liked it. And then, but sure enough, there I am.
It happened. So,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
How about Burt Bacharach?
Burt Bacharach. Well, I met Burt years ago. I used to do some song demos for Burt, you know, way back when. And then he asked me to be part of his tour that he did with he and Elvis Costello when they did the Painted from Memory album. So we went to London and we did Radio City Music Hall and that was so cool. I mean, seeing those two guys, like super creative people, it was just really inspiring.
And they're working together.
Yeah, they co-wrote an album called Painted from Memory.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, so they did a co-show, you know, doing that music, and then they each kind of did their own thing too. And it was so fun. I tried to get Elvis to talk about Paul McCartney as often as I could, which he was happy to do.
Right. Now, Paula Abdul is also on this list.
I played a couple tracks. It was a really early album, and I think I played like banjo or something. It was this really weird, kind of quasi-hip-hop, I don't know, Zydeco track or something, and I played banjo on it.
80s, I imagine?
I think late 80s, yeah.
And Ringo Starr.
Ringo Starr. That happened because this music contractor I know just called me and said, hey, can you come down to Mark Hudson's studio and play dobro on a track with Ringo? And I think what happened was Joe Walsh was not available, so they called me.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, Ringo wasn't there, but I got to play on the album called Ringo Rama, and so that was really fun. But then I later met Ringo because we did a project for Klaus Voormann, this DVD project, kind of, you know, like a retrospective of all the stuff he did, and Van Dyke Parks got me on it. So there I am playing in the same room with Ringo, Jim Keltner, Klaus Voormann, me, and Van Dyke Parks. And if you don't think that wasn't surreal, that's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I also want to mention something else I read about you. You have one of the largest Mad magazine collections in the world?
Yeah, one of the largest. I've written actually 5 books related to Mad Magazine and the EC comics of the 1950s. And the most recent one is this giant coffee table book published by Taschen called The History of EC Comics. And it's a giant book. It's 15.5 inches high. It weighs 13 pounds. And you can get it at the Taschen store or online. And that was really a lot of work, 3 years. But it was nominated for an Eisner Award, which is the comic book industry kind of equivalent to the Oscars. So.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah.
And you were at Comic-Con this year?
I was at Comic-Con. It was fun. It was kind of back to the usual crazy. They had a kind of mini one last year. You know, they didn't do it for a few years because of COVID. But then this year, they had a mini one that was kind of poorly attended, and then this year it was back to normal, you know, crazy crowds.
So speaking of COVID, how did the pandemic affect you career-wise and just overall?
Well, the weird thing was, well, first of all, COVID, you know, those 2 years are kind of like missing years, you know, like, and I tried to think, well, when did something happen? And I was usually pretty good at that, but now, because there's 2 blank years that don't exist, I'm off, you know.
Right.
But the first year of COVID, I was actually co-writing music for a TV show called Be Positive, and it was all online, like you'd send your stuff in and then you'd get on a Zoom meeting and stuff like that. So I was actually working during that time. So, you know, it wasn't like I was just sitting in a cave, but it was an odd thing anyway, because you just didn't see anybody.
Right. Until we were able to have you do a little bit of live streaming with,
I know,
with the
right
tribe,
in here,
right?
yeah. Still wearing masks and stuff.
Yes, yes.
Glad those days are hopefully behind us, you know.
So before we finish up, our audience would love to hear a little sample of you playing something. What do you have for us today?
Well, I could play any number of things, but here's a tune from our blues album, a tune called Preach. And this tune is the tune that features Randy Brecker, but Randy couldn't make it today, so it's just me. So.
Clapping here. And for our guitar nerds that are watching this, You want to talk about your guitar, about your rig, about your amps? What do you like?
I like all kinds of stuff, mostly vintage guitars. Everything on this blues album is vintage guitars. I played this a lot. This is a 1966 Epiphone Riviera that I got from Norm. In fact, every guitar I play on the CD I got from Norm.
Yay, we're talking about Norman's Rare Guitars.
Norman's Rare Guitars, right here in Tarzana.
Tarzana, we love Norm.
Let's see, what else did I play? I have a 54 Gold Top, which looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
I played that on the record. Yeah, come on in. And then this I didn't play on the record, but it's just such a beautiful instrument. This is a 1953 Gibson ES5, kind of the precursor to the Switchmaster. So, yeah, fun stuff.
Very cool.
Fun with guitars.
Yeah.
How many guitars do you need is the question. The answer is just one more. Just one more.
Just one more. It's a great solution. Do you have a special career moment that you'd like to share with us?
I mean, there's so many of them. You know, the first big moment I can remember is what I referred to already, the Chuck Mangione thing, selling out the Hollywood Bowl. That was great. Totally. You know, the Burt Bacharach Elvis Costello tour was so cool. I mean, there's so many things.
Well, hopefully you'll have a new moment to talk about.
And the new moment, the new career highlight best is September 24th.
That's right.
At the El Portal Theater.
There'll be many moments
we'll
in that
be playing
show.
blues and more.
Very cool. So how should people find out about you?
Well, I have a website, grantgeissman.com. You can go there. We just kind of updated it, so there's some new information there to look at. And, you know, I'm on Facebook, and
all the
you
usual.
can Google me, and yeah, I'm around. So
very good. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the album and with your career and the great upcoming show.
Thank you so much, Lauri. What a pleasure. Thanks a lot.